So I will leave you guys. Oh, you've gone on here already.
Okay.
I'm just going to.
You can leave while we're on air. You can sit there and say, haha, I was here, I'm gone. Haha.
Yeah, but no, I'm just going to go to bed. I'm really tired, and I've got the horses in the morning.
Yeah.
This morning.
Great hangout earlier.
Oh yeah, always. The pre-show is sometimes better than the show, quite honestly.
Yep.
Hey, ta-ta.
Good night, Fiona, or good morning, I should say.
I will try to
4 o'clock in the morning there.
Hey, Armin, how are you doing tonight?
She is.
Wow, how are you?
And that's why I asked, because yesterday I had to turn up your volume. Let me get you set up here. There we go. Try again.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Down a touch. There we go. That might be. Give you a little bit more volume so we don't have to worry about you potentially being stepped on like you were yesterday. That was obnoxious.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, we don't actually have a set topic yet again. There are a couple things on my mind that I might bring in later, but I'm wondering, does anybody bring a topic they want to get into tonight?
Well, we've already done football.
Yeah, then Prudent left, so apparently the football talk's done. We apparently need the young people in here to start ranting and raving about that. That and the Brits. A Brit talking about American football. I don't know why that amuses me.
Scott.
Pardon me.
What? I'm quoting you. Never mind pardoning you. And of course, Red is off screen as well. Actually, it isn't usual now that I think. But you've been actually crashing out early.
On the couch.
Yeah, on the couch nonetheless. Yeah. No, can we turn off the camera because you never know.
I'm dressed.
Yeah, I know. But you know, I have to hide you from the evil camera and all that, right?
Well, I'll be right back, you guys. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That happens.
How about nudity?
There's no, we try to keep that off.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, I know. One-track mind there, Saint.
Hey, I know my game, you know.
Well, in this bizarro little community that we tend to be a part of, there. When I'm not choking to death here, hang on. Oh, coffee would be good. Okay, on this lovely little in this lovely little community that a lot of us tend to kind of hang around in, dealing with the subject of like theology and this kind of stuff. There's a certain cycle that we go through, and this was referenced briefly yesterday. And I, after we got off air, was kind of cracking the joke that, well, you know, it's going to be about February, so we should be getting into the stupid all babies are atheists argument. And then around about the end of springtime, we'll get into the stupidity of religion's a mental illness. On the atheist side, it's just a cycle, and you'll see it come back of, you know, this argument, then this argument, this argument. Now the theists have theirs too, that they go through their cycle of stupid arguments. But the whole quote-unquote mental illness argument, I wanted to actually touch on that in a manner of speaking for a moment, because the notion of mental illness is something that's really freaking ridiculous, quite frankly. There's this channel that back when I was dealing with the subject of Scientology when I first came on YouTube and going after those twits, I came across this channel that's called Psyche Truth that's on here. And I figured I'd go back after them, and I clicked on their channel to see what they've been up to in my absence since I last checked on them around about 4 years ago. And it's mostly yoga stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe they've calmed down and stopped saying psychiatry is the root of all evil. And then I noticed they had a lovely little video up there that was claiming that bipolar mood disorder can be cured by doing work on your chakras.
How about quadrupolar? I'm quadrupolar myself. You think there's any hope for me?
Well, you know, it depends what the other two are.
Yes.
You need both chakras and acupuncture.
Yeah. You have your up, your down. You don't just have the ups and downs. Then you'd have your right and left. We'd have to establish what that right and left actually is. Before.
That you need acupuncture for.
Yeah. Okay.
Quadra-dimensional. Yeah.
So does that mean you have more depth?
Unfortunately, not. Just surface area.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I have a question. Excuse me, I have lettuce in my mouth. So, if you're quadrupolar, you have your ups and downs and your rights and lefts. What if you're hexapolar and you also have your ins and outs?
I'm willing to go there. As a matter of fact, I think I've just graduated with that revelation. Thank you. You know, conceiving of myself has always been totally absurd, and it gets updated about every 20 minutes.
That might not be a bad policy, though. You know, give it 20 minutes, and okay, how about change the last 20 minutes? Okay. Hey, there's another white hair, and there's now a dog looking over my shoulder. Hi, how are you?
Oh.
Anyway. Because, yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing? There.
Puppy!
Yeah. Actually, I should actually invite my regular, seeing as we've gotten in some of the other folks here, and I want to mix things up a little bit tonight. It would have been nice if I actually had a topic coming into this other than that. Well, what I was going to say, though, is that the same kind of stupid arguments we see in our little corner of the internet, you see in other corners of the internet, too. And it amazes me that there are people out there that are still promoting this idea that you can use woo to cure, you know, real stuff. You see it all the time, like, acupuncture can cure cancer. Oh, can it now? The problem is that we have people that make these weird claims. And belief is cool, you know. It's fine to believe in things, regardless of whether it be something, you know, metaphysical or whatever. But the problem is when you start trying to put, I dare say, too much faith into them.
Well,
I mean, you know, people will sit there and talk about things like, say, let's just pick on, I'm going to pick on something theological for a moment, the power of prayer. Well, there are certain things that can be a benefit. Granted, you can write them off as placebo, what have you. But when you start claiming that you will cure cancer with it, or instead of taking your kid to the doctor because of urinary tract infection or something, you're going to pray over them, that's when you kind of have a problem. And I see from a lot of the woo community, because I've been having to go through that because that's one of the subjects I'm going to be going to, I see the same kind of stuff. It's just really a matter of what ideology it is, as near as I can tell. But there seem to be a lot of different views and ideologies out there that promote this kind of, whether it be holistic medicine or what have you, that, well, we're going to just sit there and start claiming that apricot seed extract is a cure for cancer or something, and yeah, that's a real thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Laetrile.
Yeah, no.
It seems like maybe the fault lies in the simplistic esteeming of a belief, you know, to take it too far, you know, to take it just outrageously delusional, go delusional with it in handling it in a very primitive way or very simplistic, overly simplistic way. I don't know.
I think it's kind of a cultural problem, too. We seem to want a silver bullet fix for everything.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I've met that will sit there and say, you know, I want to lose weight. It's like, oh, well, you know, there's a couple gyms, there's this, there's that, there's all kinds of different things you can do. And they're like, no, I'm just going to take these diet pills. They'll take care of everything.
Yeah, we want the quick fix. We want something easy and simple.
It's all about the silver bullet, man.
And right. It's also why people are attracted to certain ideologies. If you do this, and this, everything's fine. Whether it's a holistic medicine, whether it's a particular diet, whether it's certain other beliefs, whether they're New Age or, you know, fundamentalist Christian, they want the quick fix. And what bothers me is when desperate people fall into this. And they either don't get the help they need or they start paying for unnecessary crap. It's what happened to my cousin when he got cancer. You know, the doctors were doing everything they could, but he started looking for the magic pill and then found some guy in the neighborhood who made some concoction that he was sure cured cancer. The problem is you had to drink about a gallon of this stuff a week and it cost like $100.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, and, you know, here is my cousin with 6 kids and not working because of the cancer, and they couldn't afford that, you know? But he was desperate.
Yeah,
That's
desperateness will
where,
do that.
and that's where it really bothers me. I mean, I'm a Californian. I grew up with woo. Doesn't bother me. Crazy beliefs. That's and I'm a child of the '60s, so pretty much seen it all. But it's when they're desperate people are taken advantage of that it just really ticks me off. And you'll see these cases on the news. There have been several recently where courts have taken custody of children because the parents have decided to stop giving them medicine because if we do this diet and we take these vitamins, the kids will be okay.
Yeah. Now,
One of my personal favorites, the soy formula,
oh,
because the family is vegetarian.
Oh, yes, and it's not good for children.
you end up with kids with massive iron and calcium deficiencies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, the kid was eventually brought in with severe malnutrition.
Yeah. And what really bugs me about that is I'm again, Californian, and I live in Santa Cruz County, liberal central here. I've known a lot of vegans and vegetarians, but most vegan parents I know would not hesitate to get animal protein of some kind if their kids needed it. They weren't that crazy.
Yet you do certainly come across some that really are. I haven't technically come across them, but I've heard on radio shows and what have you, people calling in and talking about how they're feeding their pets, cats, dogs, all vegan diets, and you think, what are you doing?
Oh my God, they're carnivorous animals.
I know. Many years ago, this was in the 80s, we had a case here where a woman was finally arrested, actually, for child endangerment because she had two sons, and they were suffering from malnutrition because she had this macrobiotic diet that she was on, and she fed the kids. Now, the boys had different fathers, and the one boy's father would come and get him and take him out for stuff, for a day or whatever, and he's the one who kept calling child welfare because he said the kids are starving. But he'd take the other boy, too, because he felt sorry for him, and then he'd take them out so they could get hamburgers, so they could actually get food. But anyway, the situation was really bad, and the children were taken away. And this case became famous or infamous all over the country because the judge ruled that for her to be on probation, she had to agree to have no more children.
Damn.
And this became a huge human rights thing all over the country because people said you can't do that. And yeah, you can't. So the judge had to pull that back. But at that time, it was really well known all over. Okay. So she did the children were taken away. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. I know that the father of the one boy was going to try to get custody of his son's half-brother as well, because he's pretty attached to the kid by now, because he was always taking the both of them together. I don't remember if that happened or not. Maybe other family members stepped in. I don't know. And then she left the state. Okay. About 10 years later, she was back in Santa Cruz. And this time she had 3 little girls.
Oh, shit.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, and it's worse. Because she had this diet fanaticism. All 3 children had physical and mental disabilities due to malnutrition. And of course, when it hit the news, people were reminded of the fact that the judge had told her not to have any more children. You legally can't do that. I understand the judge's position, especially when this woman is crazy. I mean, she was. She was not with the children's father anymore, but he was around. And I remember they interviewed him once, and he had this big grin on his face, because the place was also a mess that they lived in. He went and cleaned the whole place up while she was in jail. And I saw the interview with him, and I remember thinking, oh, dear God, he's not real bright, is he? So he was kind of clueless he was like a Forrest Gump type, seriously. He didn't realize that the children weren't getting the proper nutrition, even though they were much smaller than other children their age. But I will never forget that. She ended up in jail this time. The first time it was some jail time and probation. This time she ended up in jail. But this is the thing. She was just a diet fanatic. She thought diet would cure everything. The problem is the diet that she chose for the kids didn't have enough nutrition for growing children. I don't know what happened to the three. The father thought he was going to get them. No way in hell was he going to get them, given that he'd, seen this happening. So I don't know what happened to them. I know they went into... but, of course, because it's children, you don't always find out because children's privacy and whatever. But it was a really tragic situation when it came out and they described what the children were like. And she'd kept them in isolation, too. Not educating them, nothing. She'd gone completely round the bend.
Yeah, it's so sad.
It's incredibly sad.
Yeah.
And you see these things. And it's the same thing with the anti-vaxxers. We're now seeing epidemics or little mini epidemics all around. It's so bad that the LA County school system is concerned. I was reading articles about this in the LA Times. Because to have the, what's the term? I was just about to say it and it just went whoosh. Where if you need to have a certain percentage of children vaccinated to protect the children who aren't.
You're talking about herd immunity.
Herd immunity, thank you. And the levels are too low in the entire LA County school system for there to be herd immunity, especially in certain schools. And they're kind of freaking out about this.
As well they should be.
Yeah. And they're trying to crack down on it and get parents in and that the papers did some interviews with parents and they're like, well, why aren't you vaccinating your kids? And the thing is, some of them were adamant, oh, we don't vaccinate because this, that, and the other thing.
We don't vaccinate because it causes X, Y, and Z based on
but
study that was done over by this guy that was trying to promote his own preservative instead of the one that they were using. And we don't care if it was corrupt.
But what was upsetting is some of them were kind of like, oh, well, they don't really need it, do they? Or, well, I kind of heard it was bad. And they would question them and said, well, what do you think's bad about it? I don't know. I just heard it was bad. And I'm reading this wanting to bang my head against something. These parents are just not doing it because they're fucking idiots. They haven't investigated it. And they just have decided, well, I don't know, I guess it's not that necessary. Like celebrities and stuff don't vaccinate their kids, so we know a lot of kids that are vaccinated, so we're just not going to vaccinate ours.
I'm cutting you off for a second, Jade.
Yeah.
I've listened both. I've talked with an immunologist. Damn it, I can't get the word out today.
It's okay. I couldn't say herd immunity.
Yeah, and this was after a lecture as well as listen to a couple of other lectures online pertaining to herd immunity. And what a lot of people don't get is that when you get vaccinated, it doesn't give you 100% protection. It may give you 0. You never know how your body's going to respond to it and how much resistance you're going to get. A lot of people get, 20%, 30%, 40%, etc., and it really takes the population with this immunity to protect everyone, because that way it's more across the board, because those that get the, so to speak, 100% immunity from something is actually a fairly small percentage of the population. Herd immunity is a weird thing. Okay, let me see, where are we here?
But this is a problem all across the country now, and as I said, you're having these epidemics. Not only that, a lot of people who vaccinated their kids as children didn't realize that one vaccination isn't going to do it for their entire lives. Which is why you've seen... Oh, go ahead, Cliff. Sorry.
I think one of the problems of it, though, is that there are so fewer people that actually remember having friends at school that had debilitating illness because
it's catching.
It's contagious. I'm sorry about that. I don't know. Maybe we need vaccination against that.
Yeah, because they don't have a memory of this kind of thing with their friends and things like that. So it's easy to sort of convince yourself that, oh, this isn't a problem anymore.
They're like children with polio.
Yeah, yeah.
It might have, we have a lot more immunity here in the United States to the point where we eradicated a lot of these these sicknesses, but we didn't completely eradicate them in the world, so of course they could come back. Like TB's coming back. There's TB cases in the USA now. And you're like, hey, I thought we eradicated that. No, we eradicated it from our country. It's still in other countries, and when someone immigrates, they bring their
because
kid
a
or
lot
whatever.
of stuff is still out there, but
Yeah.
we haven't had to worry about it until they started this anti-vaxxer thing.
The smallpox is still out there,
No, well, it's only in labs.
Oh, there's the plague. The plague's on Madagascar. There's actual black bubonic plague in Madagascar.
Oh no, there's bubonic plague here in California. It's endemic in rodents.
Yeah.
A lot of rodents have the plague. It's not a big deal. We see plague cases every year here in California, and in a lot of places southwest. The thing is, we're seeing the bubonic form, and and it's curable. It's if it goes into the pneumonic form, where it can be caught by sneezing. Someone sneezes and somebody catches it. If it mutates to that form, that's when it gets scary.
Oh
yeah,
Hey.
and it could do it.
Let me share with you. I know from firsthand experience, if I look at too many Auschwitz videos on the History Channel, I'll get freaked the fuck out. It is bad for my mental health to behold too much vexing, angering suffering, pointless suffering of children. It just freaks me out. I have to limit how much I see and how much I focus on, or I will get pissed off and rant and just become depressed. It is horrible. Horrible.
And the thing that angers me the most about this whole thing is that it's largely due to one guy writing a report because he was paid by lawyers. It's based upon a fraud.
Yeah.
About autism.
Yeah, it's the whole Andrew Wakefield thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody doesn't already know this, the whole thing came about because the first version of the
vaccine.
The first version of the vaccine. There were 3 versions of the MMR, effectively, and 2 of them had a small chance of giving children
autism.
No.
That's from mercury content and some.
No, nothing to do with that. What's the name of the meningitis? That's what I was thinking of.
Oh,
meningitis. Okay.
And so what happened was this lady, her son got meningitis because of a jab. Okay, and so she, the kid was cured, perfectly fine today. Kid was cured, and she decided she wanted to sue. So she spoke to her a real estate lawyer, of all things, and it didn't really go anywhere. And so that real estate lawyer and a bunch of friends effectively went and hired a doctor to write a report, to write a paper, and that was Andrew Wakefield.
Wow.
And that's where the whole thing came from. And I mean, I did an interview with a guy called Brian Deere, who's a Times journalist, who blew the whole thing apart. And the thing that stunned him at the time was that there was a press conference. Normally, a paper would be released and it would be looked at and so on. It's almost a behind the scenes kind of thing. And it was done with a press conference.
Wow.
It was launched.
Yeah.
It didn't just happen. It didn't just evolve as a scientific story. It was launched as effectively a prelude to suing for millions, billions of pounds, dollars, etc. For MMR.
Wow.
And effectively, consider it the equivalent of ambulance chasers hiring someone to drive recklessly and cause accidents.
Yeah, essentially. Yes.
Now, I'd like to put in a plug for the noble public service of ambulance chasing. It is truly. I know it sounds like humor, but it is one of my favorite vocations, and one reason why I make the money I do at it is because I have vision of how beautiful of a public service it is. So I just want to say that it is a beautiful art.
Well, I'm going to actually jump into something else because mercury content was mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah.
The mercury that had been used in the immunization shots was something that was used as part of a preservative. It was tiny little trace portions. This preservative had been used successfully for quite a length of time, but but this gentleman had come up with an alternative to it and was trying to market it. He was told by the government, well, we already have a preservative. At which point he started a study in which he brought in a bunch of kids that already had autism, used them as his sample group, and then claimed that it proved it.
Damn.
It was causing. That's where that whole thing with that supposedly causing autism came from. It was this crooked little SOB that was in there, and that's where a lot of the anti-vax stuff comes from, with this whole claim of autism being connected to it.
Well, not only that, people just don't understand chemistry. People go, "Oh my God, mercury! Oh my God, this." Well, I want you to know that chloride is really dangerous. Anybody here want to ingest chloride?
Not really.
Okay, well, we do it all the time in salt, which is sodium chloride.
Well, yeah, but I'd rather it have the sodium attached.
Well, that's the whole point. And when you're talking about the mercury as a preservative, it's not raw mercury. It's part of a compound.
Yeah.
Just like, sodium, if real sodium, pure sodium, were to meet air, it would explode. So real sodium, just pure sodium, is really dangerous. Chloride is really dangerous. You put them together and you got table salt. So it's a real lack of understanding of chemistry and how it works and compounds. The idea that just because something dangerous is in there, the entire thing is dangerous. It was a mercury salt, if I'm correct. I may be wrong, but I know it was a mercury compound. And yeah, it's probably better off without mercury. But yeah.
Well, also the scientific methodology of that bogus charlatan that used his sample of autistic kids. All scientific methodology is not equal, but it's esteemed as science. If it's science, it's truthful by default. But all methodologies are not equal. They're just not.
Yeah,
the mercury compound is called thiomersal.
There is a legitimate issue that Saint over here touched on a little bit, which is that a lot of studies that are done are influenced by the people that are funding them, and that is very much a problem that we do see in a lot of different fields. One of these, of course, is dealing with varied medicines and what have you, and it's still one of my pet peeves when it comes to that particular side of the topic is that in the U.S., in order to help with the study of varied medicines for HIV and what have you, they made it so it was a much quicker process to get varied medicines approved, and you've seen so many different companies utilize this to get stuff out there that isn't properly tested and isn't safe, but they hire their researchers that say, oh yeah, it's no problem, get it out there, and it's slanted to some degree because of this.
How about H1N1? I don't know what to make of that H1N1 and that vaccine. I didn't know whether to take it or not. There's so much controversial science.
When I was in the military, I had to take a lot of shots. Now, how many of you guys had to get anthrax shots? Just me. Okay, so
sorry. I just hear someone talking about the military and getting shot or shot.
Shots. Oh,
it's so appropriate, isn't it?
How many guys? Not that kind of shots. Who's that anthrax guy that keeps shooting all the people in the military? That guy's a douchebag. I don't like that guy.
Anthrax is a woman's name.
Yes.
Is anthrax the cousin to Ayn Rand is the question.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say there's Typhoid Mary and there's anthrax.
Ah, okay, that works.
Anthrax.
Yeah. Anthrax.
Yeah.
That evil woman.
And what's so scary about some of this, you have these fake reports or doctor reports come out, and there's some people that they will jump on that, like, oh, that's the truth, everything's, it's like, it's scary, this mindset, where they'll jump on something like that.
Yeah.
When HIV and AIDS, first started, or really when it started becoming prominent in the 80s, there was a thing going around that you could catch it by breathing, you could keep it airborne, and there were people trying to promote this, that it was airborne.
Yeah, and
it'd be kind of nice if we had a Surgeon General to try and, you know, talk to us about these kind of things.
Yeah, I was on campus during that, and it was the religious fundamentalists were passing out these pamphlets about how dangerous AIDS was, and yeah, you could catch it by just shaking hands, and they were talking about all these people who died of AIDS, the HIV virus, and one of the things I pointed out to them is, guess what? Nobody dies of HIV. They die of the complications of it. Just like nobody dies of the common cold, but they die of the complications of it, including pneumonia. So, there was so much wrong with everything they put in that pamphlet, but it was just all fear-mongering, and of course it was anti-gay fear-mongering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And a lot of these stereotypes still exist out there, and that's a serious problem. But
there's a couple of things that I wonder. One is...
We're somewhat on immunizations. Do you want to chime into something?
Actually, I just wanted to express how very proud I am of my dad. He was laid off, about a year ago, from an industry that he's been in for longer than I've been alive. And tried to get another job in that industry, and there just wasn't anything there. So he ended up taking a part-time job, which is turning into a full-on new second career.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
Giving immunizations to kids.
Oh, yay.
That's great.
Yeah, the company he's working for has contracts with the school districts where they give discounted and free immunizations to students and teachers.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's so
Amy, you was going to say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of things going on. We've seen an increase in autism, ADD, ADHD, all of these, bipolar, all sorts of things with kids. And I wondered, and I do think that they're starting to, one, identify it sooner, and maybe they're calling things that aren't, historically that would not raise to the level of these certain ailments, and that's not fair to call them ailments, but it's the only word I have for it now. In the past, they hadn't called it that. They hadn't raised to that level, and now maybe they've lowered the threshold. But I also wonder, too, if we're not, as a just general society, having our kids a little bit too late. And I know this might sound a little hokey, but I'm just wondering, in doing so, if we're not opening up the doors, because we know things like chromosome increase or loss, things like Down syndrome, they actually increase as you get older and have kids older. And I'm just wondering if we're not seeing some of these other ailments again because we're having kids so late.
Well, it's possible. It's also possible that the pollution that we've had for years, has caused chromosome damage, because they've, investigated that as well.
Now, one thing, whenever we get on this kind of subject, there are a couple things that come to mind. One of which is that initially it was things like, autistic, not autistic, and this kind of stuff. ADHD, not ADHD, right, etc. But things like autism are now more of a spectrum disorder, and you have Asperger's and autism. And there's a lot more involved to it than there ever was before, so it's really broadened up. And I wish Helena would come in here, because she could actually speak more on that particular topic, or Prudence for that matter. Anyways, I'm going to move on from that one, because I don't know enough about that specific. But we'll go to ADHD for a moment here. Now, one group that I've had to deal with in the past a lot is the quote anti-psychiatry schmucks, like that what I was referencing earlier, the Psyche Truth twit. And they'll go on and on about, that it's them trying to drug everyone in America, and others trying to claim that it doesn't really exist, and all this kind of stuff. And this drives me a little bit bonkers. I think a lot of the problem that we're really seeing is, first off, this is a relatively new thing. So because it's a new thing, what's going to happen is you're going to have, a lot of people diagnosed that wouldn't have been otherwise. But in addition to that, you have people finding out what the symptoms are. And there are going to be, whether it be school administrators or teachers or parents or what have you, that are going to see that a kid's having some kind of problems or what have you and say, haha, it must be X, Y, or Z. And there are cases, I feel a lot of cases, in which you see people pushing for kids to try and get put on very drug regimes and what have you to try and help them. And in some cases, the kids don't need it. I've discussed this at length in the past during my series when I was going after the industry of death crap from this Scientology front group, Humans Commission for Human Rights. And what strikes me, though, is you have a kid, and this particular kid is sitting there and they're having problems in school, they're having problems concentrating, or they're just simply not getting the grades they want, and the parents decide, well, we've heard of this ailment. And we've decided that our kid has this ailment. So we're going to sit there and we're going to try and get them medicated for it. So they go and see a doctor, and the doctor goes, your kid's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just a normal kid of his age. This is normal. And the parent says, no, I know there's something wrong with him, and takes him to another doctor and another doctor until they find one that agrees with them and puts them on the medication. And I think that's part of the problem that we're seeing here. And there's cases of schools trying to enforce this kind of stuff too. And I think that is part of the problem, is that we have become a nation of frickin' hypochondriacs.
Is this Munchausen syndrome by psychiatry?
It might be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's scary.
Can I point out that this is kind of nothing new? This we're a people, like creatures, that try to self-medicate. I used to, and I don't really have to argue it anymore, but I used to argue that the reason those of us who are children of the 60s took a lot of drugs is because our parents were heavy drug users, and parents would always get really upset when I said that. But if you look at the 50s, people have such a poor idea of history. You know, I mean, we forget just a few years ago. During the 1950s, Monsanto ruled, for one thing, but people drank a lot. Not only did they drink a lot, they smoked a lot. Not only did they smoke a lot, they drank coffee all day. And because they drank coffee all day, they couldn't sleep at night, so everybody took sleeping pills. And then because they drank a lot, and their systems were all screwed up, people gained a lot of weight. So then they went out and they took amphetamines to lose weight. The 50s was an entire pill-popping era. Which is why you had Jacqueline Suzanne, who made movies like The Valley of the Dolls. Wrote a book called The Valley of the Dolls, because this was Dolls was a, for those of you who don't know, Dolls was a shorthand for pills. But yeah, that period of time during the 1950s was a total drug-riddled era. Everybody was on drugs, whether it's alcohol, because cocktail parties were the in thing. Everybody had cocktails, and as I said, people drank coffee all day long. Then they switched to booze and smoked cigarettes like a chimney, and took all kinds of pills.
Morphine, 1800s, morphine was in everything, Oh
yeah.
Oh,
Coca-Cola.
Heroin.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, yeah. What was it? Lydia Pinkham's had both opium and cocaine in it at one time.
Yeah, it's the same thing, except the only thing that changed is how they used it, maybe. Like,
right.
They're injecting it into their arm, or
right.
They're sniffing it, or just the image of what it was changed. But instead of taking it in a drink or something.
Right. Back then, women had what were called the vapors. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. The women have the vapors. I'm not feeling well, and so they'd get their tonic, which would be something like Lydia Pinkham's, and they'd take it by the tablespoon, to the point where they were drinking a bottle of Lydia Pinkham's a day, and totally addicted to codeine, cocaine, opium, whatever was in the local tonic. And yeah, the men, while the women were doing that, the men were drinking. What was it? I forget the statistic, but at one time in history, it was like 2/3 of the men in America were drunk every night.
Yeah.
I forget what time period that was, but it was like the late 1800s, I think. So this is nothing new. It's just something different. Again, we're looking for the quick fix. We're looking for the feel good. There was a period of time.
Let me trail off of that for a moment. This is part of the problem that has been plaguing us with modern medicine, is that in terms of psychiatric care, which is one of my pet peeves, instead of the insurance companies covering things like talk therapy and this kind of stuff, what they cover is, here, take this magic pill.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a degree of that in terms of, physical therapy. How many visits of physical therapy, for example, in regular medicine are really covered? Typically, in a lot of cases, not that many, but they're more than happy to give you those pain pills.
How
funnily
often
enough, that
are
was something
they?
I learned when I did psychology. That therapy is expensive. Pills are cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and remember Paregoric?
Yes.
There's another thing that I popped up, while people were talking. When I think one of the reasons for this sort of ADHD and et cetera, being so rampant as on the rise, there's a couple of things that pop into my head here. The first one is that we are much better at diagnosing things that children that may have been missed before aren't being missed now. I mean, a good example. It was only 3 years ago that I got a diagnosis of Asperger's. There's always been something a bit weird with me, but it was just put down to this was a kid that had some problems. Now that I realise, this issue I've got, the Asperger's, it's made me evaluate how I act and how I respond to things and how I judge the world around me. To use a phrase, it's given me a new worldview.
A little bit of that. I know that there's something different, but what the heck is it? Then you have an idea and you can try and understand yourself better, kind of thing.
Right.
Or?
Yeah. The second one is possibly unique to Britain, or maybe and maybe not. In the UK, we have league tables for schools, and the better the exam results, the higher the grade the school gets. And so if you've got kids that are disruptive, or they're not paying attention or something like that, if they are classed as having ADHD or some kind of special need, then they don't come under the category. They aren't classed under that, so they can be disregarded from those statistics. And so there has been something of an increase in children being labelled as ADHD or having dyslexia and things like that. Even
they've broadened the threshold, so more people fall into that threshold over time. You think?
Yeah, it's almost an excuse to give up on them. And I remember I used to play war games, and there was one kid and he said he had ADHD, and he just passed it off. And then there was another one that said he had dyslexia, and it's like, well, look, ADHD doesn't mean to say you can't read your codex, can't read your rule book.
Right.
And he just, I told him off once. I said, look, don't ever use that as an excuse to give up. Look at it as a way of saying, okay, this is something I've got an issue with. I'm going to have to concentrate more on it. I'm going to have to, I'm not going to use it as a crutch. I'm going to use it as a tool to recognize where I've got an issue.
Yeah, at what point do you start saying I have a disorder? Is it really that much of a disorder to your life? Is it that disorderly? Is it actually causing disorder, or is it functioning?
For me?
Yeah.
Somewhat. I can get quite upset when people get upset at me because I said something or did something and I didn't intend to be offensive to anybody, but they've taken it offensively, and I sort of end up sort of thrown for a loop by that. One of the biggest ones I have is I tend not to notice people's body language as much. I've literally been at a model railway show with a friend, and my friend had nudged me and said, Cliff, when someone's looked at their watch for the third time, they're giving you a hint they've got other stuff to do than talk to you all day. And he was saying it in a semi-insulting way, but he was doing it for the effect, and I didn't take it offensively.
etc., and that is part of it. And I'm sorry to cut you off here, Cliff, but now I myself, I'm listed as bipolar, but that doesn't define who I am. Mm-hmm. And even though they have that word disorder there, okay, there have been time periods that it's gotten the best of me. There are time periods that I've had it very well under control, but it's something to be aware of. And most of the people that are close to me, that really close friends and family and this and that, I'll basically say, if you see that I'm getting in this state, this is how to deal with me. If you see that I'm getting in this state, this is how to deal with me. So they can then, point it out to me when I don't notice that I'm doing a behavior. And part of it is you start becoming more aware of these behaviors, and this is part of why I interrupted you, Cliff, because I wanted to get back to this. There was an occasion a while ago in a hangout that we got him on a topic, and he was just reading things off and talking about things, and he actually made the comment, "I can't stop myself. Somebody tell me to stop," kind of thing, because he realized the behavior as it was happening. Go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah, when you know what's wrong, you can deal with it.
Give it back to Cliff.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, it just gave me the opportunity to realize that, you know, I need to sort of consider things. I mean, one example, when I talk to people, I tend not to make very much eye contact. I tend to look at people's mouths to verify what they're saying. I am quite loud in my communication manner. You know, so, and it's made me start thinking maybe I should look into their eyes because it is one of those human things where people say, I'm listening to you, I'm interacting with you on a personal level, you know, and like I say, I tend not to do that. I'm constantly looking about, you know, I shuffle from side to side on one foot and then the next. I have a few weird little mannerisms.
What advantages, though, do you recognize from having it? Focus, anything like that? Greater focus?
Yeah, well, one of the things I'm a vast suppository of information is a joke I use about myself. If you want to know anything about British modern railways, I'm your guy. You know, I have a few subjects that I am just mind-numbingly dull about. I know everything there is to know about them, so to speak. I mean, obviously, there's not everything. But
that in the miniatures that you paint.
Yeah. So when I come,
incredible.
Sorry.
Your attention to detail when you're working on those is incredible.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example of the kind of way that I think. So, do you know what a Mustang is? The North American Mustang was an airplane in the World War II.
The P-51 Mustang.
Yeah. Now, in fact, give me a second. I've got
my grandfather rebuilt a P-51 Mustang.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was a wrecked Mustang that he and his buddy had bought for about $10,000. The former owner had crashed it and killed himself. So, but they rebuilt it.
See, mine was a lot cheaper. It cost me about $10.99, I think it was.
It's a beautiful, beautiful World War II plane.
But this is two different types of the same type of aircraft. Don't worry about the paperclip. I hang them on the wall. So this is the original type, and the engine on it is an Allison engine. And what happened was the original design of it, they were originally built by the British, for the British, though. And the idea was to be a high-altitude escort.
For the bombers, right?
You know. But unfortunately, the Allison engine just wasn't very good at high altitude. It kept spluttering out. And the reason was because, obviously, because Britain had been involved in a war a bit earlier, they'd had time to refine superchargers in in engines, and so they'd miniaturized them quite quickly, because they used to have air races and things like that in Europe, which is where your Spitfire came from. So the Merlin engine was a very good engine at high altitude. So, they took the Mustang and they put in the Merlin engine, and also referred to as a Packard engine, which is just a license-built one. And so they ended up with the C and the D.
And that had supercharging, the air compression, oxygen compression?
I'm not that brilliant on how they work on the inside. I'm not that much of an engineer. I'm more of what they look like on the outside.
Gotcha.
And how they were used and where they were used, and even squadrons and things like that. So and the way that it worked out was that they put this new engine in, and it was able to do that function, the original function it was intended for. Well, if you read the history books, there was a guy who wrote a book about the book about Mustangs in the 1950s, maybe the early 60s, and in it he said that it was a good plane, but when they put the Merlin engine in it, it became an amazing aircraft. However, over the years of digressing it down, you know, where someone takes that amount of text and when they write their book, they convert it in that amount of text and rework it, rewrite it, and so on. Effectively, what's happened is the historical way it's been written is that the Mustang was rubbish until it had a Merlin engine in. And it's not true. What happened was they, at medium to low altitude, so for shooting up trains or shooting up, you know, things at medium altitudes, the Allison engine Mustang was fantastic. It just was a bit rough when it got up to the maximum high altitude, where the other one was better. And unfortunately, not as good has turned into crap, which is a bit unfair, you know. So that's the kind of crazy detail that pops into my head.
I like that. I like that kind of stuff, though. It's always interesting to me.
I remember that night you were showing me about the train model, different scales and details on the what do you call those things up underneath where the wheels are?
Oh, the bogies.
Yeah. A lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a railway modeler primarily, and I convert them and do all sorts of things to them and repaint them, and you know, I've written magazine articles. You know, I'm well known within the model railway fraternity in the UK. I mean, I can't go to railway shows anymore without saying to someone, "Hey, Cliff, how you doing?" That kind of thing. It's like, you know, and the difficulty is, as with the internet, you get lots of, you know, like Facebook type groups, you know, forums, and they're made up of lots of people with avatars, but you don't know what they look like.
Now, before we carry too much further with this, the thing is when people are talking about things that are quote disabilities, or things, whether it be something like autism or ADHD or like myself, bipolar, or what have you, there usually is an upside, but as a culture we tend to focus on the downside. Now, as with myself, I tend to write, you know, so on a normal day I'll 8 to 10 pages. On a day that I'm manic, triple it. Because whatever I'm working on, if I happen to be on that manic swing, the amount of work that I can get done is absolutely incredible at times. Back when I was doing the computer tech thing, I was the one that would do, you know, on a fairly good week, I'd be doing 36 calls a week. Well, the rest of them, you know, the second highest would be at 24, trying to figure out how the heck to catch up with me, because I knew how to control it and how to channel it and how to direct it. And it's a matter of turning what some people consider disadvantages into advantages in a lot of cases.
It's like you had all that energy and you knew how to use it.
Yeah, the name disability never really made sense to me, and for a lot of reasons, because a lot of what they call disabilities come with a lot of abilities, or disorders come with a lot of functioning, or like they just function differently, and they look at the world differently, and I think that's a good thing. It's a positive thing, but I do recognize that, you know, most people are not like that, therefore it's different for them. Or
as a society, we focus on the negative side of things.
Oh yeah, very negative. I don't like focusing on the negative. It's easy to focus on the negative. It's difficult to focus on the positive, I think. It's difficult to remain positive.
Savants or savants or something? Idiots or savants? People that have a disability, but in one area they're like amazing, you know. They can't do anything, but they can do these figures and computations in their head.
Oh, that's a savant.
Savant.
Yeah, I wasn't saying it wrong.
So, yeah, savants are now. Yeah, that's just brilliant, right? But they just can't socially communicate normally. But in their mind, they're on a completely different level.
Oh yeah. Completely
different level, and each savant might have a different ability, or something like an artistic ability, or maybe a very repetitive ability that is really a disorder, you know. But the logical there's actually functioning savants, though. They can actually talk to you normally. There's a functioning savant. You could look him up on YouTube. And the guy is a human calculator. Yeah. You know. But he functions. He can talk, and he met the guy. I forget the name of the guy the movie Rain Man was written about. He is right. But he's a functioning savant. He has the logical capacity to do all this mathematic. And the guy in Rain Man, he was also like a library. He could remember all sorts of things, every photographic memory, all kinds of things. But he did have a lot of social dysfunctions. He couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a good friend of mine that passed away recently. He had some problems, but you could ask him what day of the week, like say, what was the 3rd of January, 1954? Mm-hmm. And he'd go, and then he'd tell you, and he'd be right.
Yeah. And isn't that great? Like the Rain Man, I can forget the actual person's name. I don't want to do him a disservice, but he can remember the day and the weather and zip code that something happened, and it's crazy. It's awesome.
Heavy. It was a Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday. The sun was out.
It'd take like 10 or 20 seconds, and he'd give you the answer.
Yeah.
And then I can tell you what like the baseball scores were too.
I have to confess though, I just randomly pulled a number out. I had a 1 in 7 chance of being right.
But as a note, there was a gal that I once knew, and her thing was music. Anything, any band, any person that participated in any album, she'd know it. It didn't matter what it was. You could just bang, and she'd have the answer just like that. That was her thing. But this is something, instead it's like, well, she's slow, or she's this, or she's that. And her mother treated her that way.
Oh, gosh.
And it really bothered me because she had this one area in which, beyond exceptional. And yet her mother would sit there and focus on the areas where she had a detriment. And I think that's part of the problem that we run into with dealing with a lot of people that just basically, I want to say, function a little bit different than what is considered the norm. You don't say, wow, this person has these huge advantages in these regards. You say they have these detriments in these areas. And that, I think, is a problem.
But we do that societally with everything, not just people with, some of these challenges or disorders. I mean, I can't remember working at a company where they didn't focus on my weaknesses more than they did my strengths, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The military is the exact same way. You could have a great day, but the second and excuse my language, the second you fuck up, doesn't matter how much good you did. You're screwed.
Hey, law offices work like that too.
Yeah.
It's hard for me, but coming from like a military standpoint, I guess I understand it a little bit more because, or a doctor or something where it's like life or death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
but
there's no room for mistakes.
That's not the case.
What was the word? Snafu?
Snafu.
Yeah.
Situation normal, all fucked up.
Yeah.
The thing when I showed you the airplanes thing, that gave a good example of something where I know a lot about something, but Shadow was very good at moving me on because I can become very embedded in my fixed focus interest. And so, although it's useful in some regards, if you want to know about airplanes, if you want to know about trains, I'm your guy. But I can miss the bit where I'm being informative and go into being boring. I can go into monologues almost at times. And like I say, although in some ways that's negative, but in other ways it's positive. If you're interested in that, it's a great person to talk to.
And there have been times that I've sat there and I hang out with you talking about painting techniques, for example, with my wife sitting there, that we let you go on for, I think it was like a good solid hour and a half.
But I learned a lot.
Oh yeah, for the little figures.
But what's interesting is Cliffjumper, while I haven't hung out with you a ton, the few times I have, I've absolutely been amazed, but I would have never guessed it. Because there are a few people on here who also have Asperger's, and there's a couple of people who I'm like, just shoot me now.
Well, let's leave the neo-atheist out of this discussion, please.
I'm not even mentioning names since we're...
No, that was where my mind went first, too.
I know that's where your mind went.
One of the things that was in the side chat, she asked if I had a disability, and I said Asperger's, and I also said agoraphobia, and she said, "What is it?" And so I just thought it'd be something worth talking about for a few minutes. If that's okay.
Oh, sure. Actually, there's a lot of people in the community that have problems with social anxiety, full-blown agoraphobia, etc. One of the regulars on the shuffle, Rose, has that going on in her life, and unfortunately, she's not with us.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I've always had it to a sort of greater or lesser extent. I would rather have been inside, colouring in, than I was outside playing. I preferred my own company and things like that. So, but then it was about 10 years ago now. I was assaulted by someone who lived downstairs from me and his neighbour. And effectively, I kind of stopped going out. I go out on average about twice a week at most. I came home on the. I went away to visit my parents for Christmas. I came on the 27th. I went out on the 28th to get some shopping in. I haven't been out since.
Now, is that because of this incident, or did that incident make it bring it full scale, full throttle? I don't know what the. I'm sorry, I'm lost of words.
Well, I didn't go out a lot anyway, but now it makes it harder to go out and do things, instead of getting up and saying, right, I'm going out tomorrow, I have to kind of really focus myself and almost psych myself up for it. And when I do get out, I get very tired very quickly. I'll go out and I'll do my shopping and I'll do all the bits I need to do, and I'll come home and I'll end up going to bed.
Do you go to the gym at all? Do you work out? Do you go out and sweat and become physically active? Anything like that?
Well, I ride a bicycle everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I ride the bicycle is because it's a coping strategy. If I walk, I have a chance to think about things and worry about things. Whereas when I'm riding a bike, I'm worrying about the road and the traffic and things like that. So I'm concentrating on what I'm doing.
I'd also think that it could be a little bit of an element of this is your personal space too.
Yeah.
You're still on your own property, so to speak.
Yeah. Which is possibly the reason why I've got the cycle camera, and I kind of get a bit irritated when people cut in and get too close and things like that. Maybe that's a part of the, why I've focused on that so much. Possibly. The best way I can describe how it feels when I'm starting getting twitchy is, do you remember Full Metal Jacket? The drill sergeant with a wide brimmed hat and just yelling abuse. Yeah. So if you imagine one on one side and one on the other side shouting at you. Now I'm not schizophrenic. I'm not hearing voices anywhere. It's just that presence of someone too close to you makes you feel uncomfortable. It's like someone standing too close to you in a queue.
It basically is an exaggeration of a personal space issue. I mean, most people, it's an elbow for you further.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to understand because I'm one of those people who, while I don't like to get in people's spaces, I feel more at ease when people feel comfortable enough with me that they are in my space. Does that make any sense? Like the close talker, I mean, everybody notices them, but they actually don't bother me. I'm not the close talker either. So it's a hard thing for me to understand. Like my mom has anxiety, and I don't get it. It's nothing I've ever had to.
Unless they have bad breath, of course, right?
Well, that's the worst.
No, because I can, even if they have bad breath, I can fake it like nothing's wrong. Yeah, like that's just, that even that doesn't bother me because I'm so usually enthralled with what they're saying that I'm just like, yeah, it's weird. So yeah, I don't. I can just say that that's one that I don't get. But
the worst one for me is now over, thankfully. And it's going somewhere like the supermarket or going and doing the Christmas shopping because there's far more people out doing the shopping. And also the supermarkets, they've only got enough room stored in the back. So normally stuff comes in and it goes out on a shelf. They're that quick. Well, because at Christmas everybody buys too much stuff. I mean, I saw people walking around with 2 shopping trolleys. So because people go and buy extra stuff, there's more demand. So what you end up with is a pallet in front of another pallet, sticking out in an aisle. And if you've got another one on the opposite side of something, there's hardly enough room to move. And so you turn around and there's someone about to bump into you, and you're just like, And so, and when I start getting twitchy, your personal space is roughly a distance to reach somebody. So, if you imagine shaking hands with someone, that's about the distance you would have between another person. But for me, when I start feeling twitchy, that space needs to be bigger. That becomes a bit too close for me, and then it becomes exaggerated because, of course, there's more people, and more people are going to walk through that space, and that then gets my, I get very anxious about it. So, it's a social phobia as much as a outdoors phobia.
So can it be like I'm deathly afraid of snakes? I don't even care if I see a picture of one. I don't like it. And I start to, my leg literally starts twitching. My heart is just pounding out of my chest. Is it kind of like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
fight or flight reflex.
Yeah, I've had that. I mean, I remember because, like I say, I'm interested in railways, so I go and look at trains sometimes, and there's some things I wanted to take photographs for modelling purposes in London, and I ended up at London Victoria, which is one of the biggest stations in the UK, at rush hour.
Oh.
And it just threw me for a loop, and I ended up having to jump on a train, go to Clapham Junction, spend an hour watching trains, wait until the rush hour finished, because I just couldn't cope with it. I just, my head was spinning.
Wow.
Yeah, you couldn't go to the flea market with me because everybody's like this close sometimes in the aisles, walking by each other.
Yeah, and it's almost what's the I try to remember. There's a film and I can't think what it was, and it's just one of these sort of scary ones. And the female character, and she just sort of closes her eyes and says, "Go away," and then she opens her eyes and they're gone. And I think it was a Star Trek one, actually. Yeah, it was a Star Trek one. But yeah, actually, I remember the episode now. It's one when people aren't getting enough REM sleep, and they're starting to sort of see things and sort of hallucinate and things like that.
Next Generation.
Yeah, it was a Next Generation.
They're stuck in this place with another ship that's away from them. The other ship communicating.
And they're trapped. Yeah, they're trapped in a bit of space and they can't get out. And what happens is that the Doctor is in, there's a ship they find, a Federation ship, and they've beamed over the dead from it, and the Doctor's in taking some readings or something, and she just hears a noise, and she's like that, and then she turns around, and one of the bodies next to her is sat up, and then she suddenly turns around again, and they're all sat up, and she just closes her eyes and said, "No, this is in your imagination, in your imagination." She opens her eyes, and they're all sat lying down again, and it is that kind of reaction. It's hard to explain because it's hard to verbalize something that's just crossing through your head and trying to explain the anxiety of it, And a part of it, I don't want to talk about it because, it kind of makes me anxious thinking about the feelings that are associated with it,
Okay, so let me ask another question.
I do actually have a degree of social anxiety, but with me it's predominantly large crowds. And I remember back in the day there was a doctor that's like, "Then put yourself out in those situations." I'm like, "Are you out of your mind?"
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. What's the cure? What can you do to ease that so it's not so, even if it never entirely goes away, it's just not so intense?
There are some therapies that are available, but the problem of it is to get the therapy, I've got to go out to get the therapy. It's
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's
it's the equivalent of someone being, I don't know. It would be like you to go to get. You've got to walk down a street lined with snakes in order to get to the therapy center.
Not happening.
In order to get the cure to cure you of your not liking immunizations, you've got to get an immunization to do it.
Shock therapy is what they call it.
Yeah. So
immersion therapy.
In order to cure you of your fear of snakes, we have to dangle these snakes on your body.
Oh joy!
The furthest I'll go, and it's helped, is to actually look at pictures of them. Somebody actually recommended that I put a picture in like my living room or something, a really big one of a snake, and I couldn't even deal with that.
Is it all snakes you're afraid of?
Even I have some garter snakes around the house. I pay someone twice a season to come and spray for snakes because I'm just, and I live in the country. You're going to have garter snakes. It doesn't matter. I mean, they scare the living Jesus out of me. Whereas other people can pick them up and throw them.
Whereas my wife went and had fun going around a rattlesnake roundup in West Texas.
There you go. I'm like, that's just, for me, that would be, if somebody really hated me, that would be what hell would look like, honestly.
Considering how many they put in that pit, it looked a little bit like hell to me, too, honestly.
It wouldn't bother me in the least.
I got to touch one.
Oh.
It was cool.
Oh.
I've...
Oh, go ahead, Jane.
I was just going to say, I've had snakes as pets. So, it's just interesting to me, the things that scare people. And I had friends who would come over and they had no problem with my snakes, but when I had a pet tarantula, they totally freaked out.
Yeah, spiders.
That's more common.
Spiders don't bother me in the least bit because I can just step on them and smush them. Like, what's the big deal with a spider? Like,
if a spider comes on me, I scream like a little girl.
Well, I had one. I tend to let the spiders live in the corners of my room because it doesn't bother me, and they eat flies. And I was sitting here a few days ago, and I started to notice a spider coming right down at me, and it was like right in front of me. And I looked at it, and I just took my hand. Yeah, it was like right in front of me. I just took my hand and I sort of patted it on its little feet and sort of gently pushed it back up, and it got the idea, and it went right back up where it belongs.
I am the same way, big bad marine and all, but you'd figure like, oh yeah, you'd smash him. No, I will get the spider and I'd put it outside. It's almost like I'm caring for it, like I have that, like I'm not afraid of them at all.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I mean, periodically, I think it's time for me to get rid of the webs in the corners. It just doesn't bother me, but it gets a little overdone occasionally. They've been there a little too long.
The peanut gallery's trying to speak behind me here.
Okay.
We have a deal with spiders in our house. They are allowed to live in the kitchen window because we get a lot of that's where all the fly bugs come in.
Yeah.
And where they're going to get best fed. However, if they are found pretty much anywhere else in the house, they're going to die.
I actually saw something interesting today, which is in Bangladesh or Pakistan or somewhere like that, the lowlands where they've had a lot of problems with flooding. Effectively, all the land around it, you've just got these roads, effectively, where, and everything on the other side of it is water. And there are a handful of trees, and they're just covered in cobwebs.
Yeah, I saw
but the side effect of it is that the mosquitoes are a very, very small problem now because they're basically getting eaten by all the spiders. And it's reduced the problem with, oh, crikey, what's it called? The one where the mosquitoes bite you and you get
malaria.
Malaria, that's it. Yeah.
There's also West Nile fever, a number of mosquito-related diseases, all of which I've had shots for.
Yeah, but in part of the world, all-time low right now.
Well, I have my bedroom. It goes on to another room that I call the music room in the library because it's got all the books in it and everything. And those are the windows that I usually have open, or in there. And without fail, the flies then fly into my bedroom. So that's why I let the spiders live in the corners of the bedroom, because they will get the flies. Yes. They're really nice about that.
Well,
No spiders for you.
I don't mind spiders, but I just kill them. I don't want cobwebs. I got bit by the little bittiest spider, and it actually caused like an issue with my skin a little bit. It must have been like a brown recluse or something. It was something pretty brutal.
Yeah, I just have to tell you that I got 5 black widow bites at one time, all in a circle about the size of the palm of my hand.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you this. This is a funny thing. About a year and a half ago now, there was a school that was shut because of a false widow spider. So it's there was an infestation of false widow spiders, and the worst they do is give you a nibble, you take some antibiotics, it's gone. And they shut a school down because of this, Anyway, so there's a guy I watch on YouTube called Angry Aussie, and he was basically making fun of this thing and saying, "Oh, crying out loud, this is false widow. We've got proper spiders here."
They're like this big, literally.
He talks about the trapdoor spider, which, effectively digs a hole, makes a cover over the top, and if you disturb it by just like doing some gardening or something, it'll come at you. It'll say, "What the hell are you doing? Right, I'll have you," and it'll come after you. It'll actually chase you, and it can really do you some serious damage. But my favourite one was when he describes he describes the huntsman, and it's basically just a big-legged spider. It's a massive thing, big as your hand. And he said the thing about it is its main power is to scare you nearly to death, because it'll just pop up out of nowhere, And he said one of his favourite places to hide is in the sun visor of your car.
Really?
So you drive down the road, and suddenly you think, "Oh, sun's in my sky," and it just jumps into your lap and says, "Hiya, mate."
No.
Why are you driving off the road? Aren't we supposed to stay on the road? Come on, mate. I'm only trying to be friends.
So not quite. So well, still dangerous in its own strange way. It's not quite as a threat as something like the funnel web that says, "Oh, look, a bra. Let's make my little web here."
Oh no.
It is an Australian thing of always check before putting your leg in trousers or shoes.
I dumped a guy, like, when I finally went to his house and his kid had a snake, done. You never knew why. I was just like, I'm not that into you. Sorry.
Yeah, everybody's got their little thing.
I like you, but the kid with the snake has got to go.
Yeah, it was a red and orange snake. I don't remember what they call it. It wasn't striped red and orange. It was more like oh shoot, it's
mottled.
Beg your pardon?
Mottled?
No.
Sort of spotted or. Oh.
Yeah, a little bit more spotted. Yeah, not like polka dots, but like.
Blotchy.
Right, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, blotchy. That works.
Yeah. Like, yeah, whatever. Ooh, I don't even want to talk about this anymore. Can we?
Okay.
Let's go someplace else.
Well, it is actually about shuffle time anyway. Granted, it's been shuffle time for a little bit of a while, but we've been moving on from topic to topic pretty organically anyway. Polly, how you doing, man? If Polly
man. Oh, maybe he's, yeah.
Oh, well. Going to see how Polly was doing it, see if he had a topic.
You want to do a quick shuffle? I bought a couple of new plushies recently.
Plushies!
Well,
I got the Steg.
Oh, how cute! Let me put you in the center here. I like that.
Oh, Stegosaurus! One of my favorite dinosaurs when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
Yeah.
Stig. I called him Stig. Stig the Steg. I also have this one, which is Peter, which is a penguin. I just thought it was funny.
Aw, he's cute.
And he's got
Hello.
great.
I was actually
Look at those eyes.
during the second half. I was initially planning on discussing the hierarchy of needs, but I'm not sure that Wi-Fi is supposed to be at the base of the hierarchy or not. So I'm kind of wondering about that.
Oh, let me see that one.
Then I got this guy who, it's a hamster Got this cute little face.
It's a roly-poly hamster.
Yeah, I called him Plum P hamster.
Plum bee.
Oh yeah, that one is cute.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that gag with a kitten growing in this
Look at that
container Photoshop thing.
Sorry.
I've always got a squirrel.
Oh yeah, the squirrel drinking coffee.
Talking about, man, that ain't no squirrel.
He's a scary squirrel.
No, man, this is a squirrel.
Yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't look
Not
as
all
scary
the
as that.
squirrels.
That's an angry face.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Give me back my nuts now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing
I
about
call
the
him
puppet that I
squirrel.
That's actually the thing about the puppet is that it has actually two different eyes on it, and one of them looks kind of ticked off, and the other one's normal. That way you can emote with it by just changing which direction. But as a result, when it's looking at you straight on, it looks a little cockeyed.
Well, it's got a man's hand up its ass.
Yeah, that is a point. That is a valid point. That's why when I use it into the green screen, I actually have a wrap to put around my wrist so that the hand doesn't show, because, yeah, it does not look comfortable.
While I think about it, I'm reminded of something. I went to visit my father for Christmas, as I said, and he has a toilet that laughs at you.
Oh yeah.
It is. I had to take a photo. Have a look at this.
I think this might be on the list of things that should not be.
Look! It's got a face. Look, you can see. There's the mouth. Do you want to just white box me?
Yeah, hang on, give me a second. Let me grab you here. There we go. Gotcha.
So if you look, it's got the mouth there, and then it's got a nose there, and then it's got two eyes there. And
Yeah, it's happy. It's a happy toilet.
yeah, and you know, I mean, my comment is, I don't know what you're laughing at. I've been pissing in your mouth for 4 days.
Well, I guess some people, some toilets are into that. Sorry, not people.
Oh, I think some people are too, but we won't go there.
Let's not get into that too much right now.
Yeah, man.
That is absolutely hilarious.
We have managed to go an entire show. Granted, drugs did kind of come up, but it was pertinent. But we've got an entire show without the conversation of things like dicks coming. Oh, damn it! I just ruined it by saying that. Damn it.
Yeah, y'all got soft fuzzy things, and I got robots back there.
Yeah, I see that.
There was we've had this whole mental health related pop psychology movement and stuff, and there was something that was said in one of them that I think was actually good and useful, that everyone should have a stuffed animal. That I'll endorse.
And crayons.
Crayons. Okay. I'm not going to argue with her. She's read it.
I am a big proponent of the healing therapy of a new box of crayons.
Guess what? I just bought a new big box of 64 crayons.
See?
So you two exist on each other's mental wavelength. Okay, I'm going to make note of that.
I know it's kind of scary, isn't it? Oh, look. Yes, I have a lot of colored pencils, too.
Yeah.
Are they Prismacolor?
And there's Cliff with his.
Yeah, Prismacolors are all based. They blend real good.
Oh, Prismacolors are amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the nice things about modern technology is we have printers, and you can find all kinds of cool things on the internet to print out in color and make your own stuff to color.
Yes.
And I own a 3D printer, so I can actually make 3D models.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's nice.
I'm jealous.
The unicolor or the dual color?
No, it's a single color.
Single color, yeah.
But I could expand my machine to do 3.
Oh, cool. I was looking around here just because they're interesting, and I found a bunch of them that were single color, and one that you could actually print with 2 different colors on the 3D printer. But I didn't see anything more than 2, and I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, the one that I've got, it's a RepRap Pro Mendel, and you can have the tricolor Mendel as well. So it's exactly the same machine. It's just got 3 extruders.
Does one of the 3 extruders actually let you do a little bit of mixing of colors, or is it just one and then the other kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just one and then the other.
Yeah. It'd be interesting.
Who's to say the future may be that you have 3 pieces of plastic, going in, like you got your 3 colors, or maybe 4 for black and black as well. And so, what is a bit like you'd have a 3-color printer.
Yeah, that was actually my thought. Yeah.
And it just comes out one over.
Well, actually, with a 3D printer, I think you'd not only have the 3 main, colors and black, but you'd also need white. Because you don't need white with paper, but you would need white with. Plus, that would allow you to lighten up the colors as well, go into pastels and stuff.
Do you actually? I was going to ask though, in relation to those printers. I mean, do you have to do the 3D modeling for it, or just use the 3D scanners, or download specs? How do you generally?
Well, what you have, yes, you've got to do the 3D modeling, but there are people that have already done plenty of models already. So there are some people that like doing modeling, and some people who download stuff and print them out.
Cool.
Although the 3D scanners are kind of awesome.
Yeah, the 3D scanners do look kind of neat.
Yeah, I'd like to get one of those as well. I actually designed something yesterday. I'm looking to rebuild my living room. And I was thinking, sort of behind this blue screen, if you imagine having the sofa there and having a sort of a tall, just a little, I don't know, it's almost like the boundary between the computer area and the sofa area. And so, let me find it. I created this, so it's a blade, I call it, but it's just a piece. If you imagine the sofa being here,
you're breaking up a little.
It could be that I'm doing too many things. The idea would be that the sofa would be attached to here. So let me show you. If we need, I can't do that. So I've designed it with the hole in it, and that's where the piece of glass goes.
Ah, okay.
But if you imagine the sofa part going here, so what you do is you draw your object and you constrain it in different ways. So I'll constrain to that one, and to that one. That I'm going to create an angle. So let's make it.
I'm sure I might be boring the audience. The whole notion of doing modeling for 3D printing and just fascinates me.
Yeah. So drop that down.
Yeah. Yeah, it does for me too. I mean, the possibilities. I mean, I used to be a machinist, so I know how to make things out of metal. And the idea that you can just print stuff. Boy, someday you'll be able to print stuff with metal too.
Yeah, and a lot of things you can download the.
You can already do it.
Yeah. Oh, I know you can always do it, but I mean at home, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
My wife and I just got back from the hobby shop, and we noticed that in the glass case, you know, where I don't know if you guys go to hobby shops or not, but they got those little miniatures for those RPG games that they play.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the customers came in, and he is he's showcasing some of his 3D printed caricatures that he's created on the computer, and then 3D printed them. And it's really, really cool. Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, honey, these are 3D printed, because and she's like, they are, yes. Like, oh yeah, check them out. And it's really cool to see it. So.
Yeah, this kind of conversation reminded me of a video I was going to send to Brian. But have you guys seen the video of that dog that had deformed front legs, and they built him?
Yeah.
Those front legs on a 3D printer, and he just bounces, and it's so cool.
They look like they're spring loaded or
yeah, they're kind of like springs, yeah. And because the woman who's with the company that made them, pointed out that like with humans, they normally think of like a curved shape, you know, but she realized with dogs that wouldn't work because they'd get caught on stuff, so they made it completely circular. And he's just, you know, it's a fantastic video. Yeah.
It's a happy little puppy.
I know.
He's running around. Yeah, bouncing
I know.
around.
I know, and they've built, you know, they built hands for people now. You know, there was that kid in South Africa, and he didn't have a really good hand, and his dad was looking for something and found a guy with a 3D printer, and they ended up printing him a hand, which is really great for kids because, you know, they grow, and it's very expensive to get a new prosthesis. So nowadays there are all these people online who are helping each other. You know, and they've got the specs out there that you can download for your printer, or if you can find somebody who has a printer and adapt them to your own needs. I mean, it's just really fantastic. I saw that little kid just absolutely overexcited, grabbing a ball with his new printed hand, and throwing it, and just really happy.
Yeah, it's like there's this whole new, different technologies coming along, and they're accessible to just about anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody. With a little extra money, you know, they can have access to this and do some amazing stuff. You know,
Well, the
as I
great
said,
thing about it is, with 3D printing, when you do the drawing for it, such as I've just drawn this here,
right.
I can increase the scale of it. So as that child grows older, they can say, okay, here's the original drawing. We now need it, 2%, 5% bigger.
Yeah. And that's the cool part. It's just.
The advantage for 3D printing, think about this, is you're able to take it from a prototype stage, test it out, 3D print it, and then, there's some problems, and immediately go back to the prototype stage and print out a new one. So it's cutting the time down vastly. The time it would take to actually create a prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was the whole point in the first place. I mean, 3D printing is not new. It's something that's been around for 20 to 30 years now. It's just been incredibly expensive, and it's becoming more mainstream. But it is exactly what you just said. The idea is to it's called rapid prototyping. That was the original intention for it. So it's the way that, let's say, cell phone companies can design something, or you can get a TV, Sony or whoever, who design the remote control, and you 3D print the parts and you try it out and you see whether this fits in your hand well, whether it's easy to navigate through the buttons and so on.
Ergonomically friendly or something.
Yeah. I mean, the fantastic thing is, can you imagine a future where you go to a store and you want to buy a new pair of shoes? And so you basically stand at the computer, a bit like when you go to the photo lab or something. You put your card in, and you pick out the pictures that you want, and you get them printed out. So if you imagine going into a store, and let's say the material costs you $30, and the print, and they charge you £10 for doing it or something. So it costs you $40 for a new pair of shoes, and it's all 3D printed, and you just pick it up the next day or something.
Right. That reminded me for a moment of the old days when I was a kid, and you would go to the shoe store, and you would put your feet in an X-ray machine, and you'd look down, and you could see the bones of your foot, the X-ray machine. And the idea was you'd put the shoes on, and then you'd put your feet in the X-ray machine to see how well the shoes fit your feet. Of course, nobody was thinking about all the radiation you were getting. That's why they discontinued that. Oops. I mean, I had a Mickey Mouse watch that had the radium hands on it. I lost it fairly quickly.
Much more sense now.
Ironically, there was a funny thing that happened during World War II, and there were a number of women who worked in an aircraft factory that got cancer of the tongue, because what they were doing is they were painting the dials for the gauges, and so they would work at night. They were using radioactive paint, phosphorus paint.
Ooh.
So they glow up in the dark. And what they were doing is, with the paintbrush, to get a nice clean, stroke, they'd go like that, and they just lit the paintbrush, put it in, paint it, and they were doing this all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, people just didn't know. Yeah, there were people who got very ill from painting the hands and the dials on the watches, like the one I had.
Yeah.
Because you could see it was really cool because it was like Mickey Mouse and it had the little hands. It had radium on it, and all the little dots, all the 12 dots around it, were made with radium, so it glue in the dark. I guess fortunately for me, I lost it fairly quickly. Although perhaps that does explain a lot of things.
You were only wearing it, you weren't licking it.
Yeah, you're right, and it did have a little cap on it, but yeah, because it was like they were all over the place back then. Nobody thought about stuff like that. It
like
amazes me,
isn't it? You know, people didn't think about that. They didn't know what could happen from it.
Yeah. Oh, and they used to actually, there were actually ads on television back in the 1950s where doctors were saying, if you have throat problems, smoke these cigarettes. The menthol cigarettes will help your throat. Oh, yeah, it'll help, all right. Oh, dear.
Yeah, we're very good at finding things to make us ill.
I know. Well, that's where you remember the term mad as a hatter?
Mm.
And that term came from the fact that hatters used was it lead or mercury they used to block hats?
Mm.
I think it was mercury they used to block hats, and it drove them mad, literally. So, that was interesting.
Yeah. I think I've been fortunate to not live at a time where really bad things have been around, you know. I can't think of any that have been particularly bad. Stupid, yes, but
yeah.
Possibly.
Oh, what's that insulation that they used to put in places?
Asbestos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had asbestos all over the place. We had a cabin. We had this big slab of asbestos under the stove in the cabin because my dad said, see this, if anything falls on it, it won't burn. Maybe that explains a few things.
We were doing training missions on it.
You just keep sinking deeper and deeper there.
I can't help it. I grew up in the 1950s where people
list of things there.
Yeah, I know. I could.
I think the most worrying one in the railway industry, they used to put asbestos between the panels, between the exterior chassis shell and the interior panels, and it would have asbestos in between, blue asbestos in particular, which is the really scary one. But in the 70s and into the 80s, they got rid of most of it. There were only a few bits left by the 90s to early 2000s. And there are a few places, because there are preservationists who preserve railway stuff, and it's a lot of things weren't preserved because the costs involved with stripping the stuff out, sending it into a special facility to strip the stuff out, and then stick, and of course what you got back was practically a bare shell with the, a whole holes in it. So you've got to spend a lot of money restoring it after it's so a lot of people got put off. But there was a guy called Colin Messingham who's now dead, strangely.
I've heard of him.
Because he decided that he was just going to strip out an old loco without using a mask, even though
God.
Apparently.
Yeah. Well, and that reminded me when you mentioned that they used to put asbestos in brake pads for cars. Yeah. So stop and think about it. You've got all these cars driving all over the streets. Every time somebody hit the brakes, asbestos was going everywhere.
Yeah,
and of course, all our houses had lead paint.
Amazing you're alive.
Yeah, you're right. Heavy hauler. I am making a list. Lead paint, asbestos, radium.
Are you checking it twice, that list?
And everybody smoked around me as a kid because everybody smoked.
Is that why you're so crazy now?
I think so, yeah.
Like I said, it explains so much.
Well, let's see. When you say smoke, we're not talking about tobacco here, are we?
No, we are talking tobacco. No, that was later. That was in my young youth, we switched to other things. But no, back in the go to
the 60s to get here, I guess, or
yeah. Yeah, but in the 50s and in the early 60s, because the 60s as we think of them didn't start till the late 60s really, but yeah, everybody smoked, and there was smoking everywhere. Everywhere you went, there was a cloud of smoke. Nobody thought anything about it. All the restaurants were filled with smoke. It was, nobody thought a thing about it. My dad smoked. My mom didn't. My dad quit though when I was fairly young, but yeah, nobody thought anything about that. We didn't have seat belts. Kids. You didn't have helmets and stuff for kids. We just landed on our heads and so what? On our bikes. There are times when I'm really surprised that I've talked to people my age and we just start cracking up because it's amazing that we lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be honest, I've chatted with some people on YouTube that I wonder if they weren't wearing a helmet when they fell off their bike.
Well, and then, of course, I was quite young when the polio epidemic hit. And that was terrifying. My mom didn't want to let me go anywhere.
Wow.
I grew up with people who were permanently damaged from polio. It was, my generation was, injured by it. Yeah. I nearly died from the measles.
And this is what I was saying earlier, is that, you're fortunate because you have a memory of this, and that's probably the reason why you take the immunization stuff seriously. Whereas
I do.
People in their 20s and 30s, maybe, they have no memory of this at all.
And it's scary to me because, as I said, I nearly died of the measles. And I remember it, and it's a memory that I refuse to access. That's the best way I can put it. If I start to think about it, I remember being 4 years old at Arrowhead, and my temperature was 104, and the people freaking out around me. But I don't like to think of it, so I get so far into that memory and I shut it off because it is that bad.
Yeah, I had chickenpox.
The pain and the agony. But yeah, I mean, I have permanent damage because of the high fevers I ran. That's partly why I'm hard of hearing. Excuse me a minute. Freddie, what the hell are you doing? Sorry, cat. He's a little moon madness going on at this time of night. He's like, well, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. Jade, Freddie, I'm the one in the family that's hyper. Stop it.
Jade, back to point.
Huh? Oh,
back to
well,
poisoning yourself from existing. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. The one thing I did want to say is because of my experience growing up, it's my personal opinion. I said, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't vaccinate your children, it's child abuse.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, but now we need to have a choice.
Yeah.
I know. Well, the way to deal with that is
mercury and lead and stuff.
Yes, you should have the choice as to whether to endanger your neighbors and your neighbors' kids by, being irresponsible.
Yes, totally agreed.
There it is. I found my little camera that I was looking for. Because the camera on my laptop has decided to quit working. I found my little old Logitech camera.
You're going to just keep losing focus.
Okay. Anyway. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Cliff. People just don't have a clue, and we're now seeing a resurgence of diseases like the whooping cough that were there were hardly any cases of it 5, 6, 7 years ago, and now it's all over the place. They practically eliminated it from this country, and now it's coming back, and it's scary.
I can't remember. I was talking to somebody the other day. It might have been you actually, and they were effectively saying that doctors had gone through their whole careers and never known what it was outside of a video from a long, long time ago, and now they're having, they're able to actually see cases of this, of whooping cough.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Oh, that's how you put this thing on there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's there were doctors who'd never seen the mumps or never seen whooping cough.
It's gotten to the point that it's just becoming a matter of social responsibility, and the problem that I'm seeing in U.S. society, at least, is that people seem to be, well, I don't want to say people in general, there are certain segments that seem to be just saying, well, becoming so self-obsessed, I guess. You can almost say that it's all about them and what they want and what they need. That to hell with everyone else, or screw social responsibility, me, and this just it's frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want this, I want that, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter what's better for the population in general. It's, you know, just what they think or want. I've met people that are, for example, vegans that think that they should outlaw all meat products.
I think one of the most annoying versions of that was it was Australia, and some cat owners, I think it was, they got in serious trouble because they tried to feed their cat, nearly died because they tried giving it a strictly vegan diet.
Yeah. Going along those lines a little bit, myself, I'm diabetic, and as such, being insulin-resistant diabetic, I should say, I need the meat because the meat helps fight that insulin resistance.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have actual meat, yeah, I'm kind of screwed. Regardless of what certain people have tried claiming about it, that oh no, it's a vitamin deficiency. You have to figure out which one. Oh fuck you. There's another one. The people that think that vitamins cure every fucking ailment.
Yeah.
And of course they're completely wrong because they're called vitamins.
The
Americans.
Of course, now I'm sitting there thinking when I Love Lucy skit with the Vita Vita Vegemin.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Try to say that 3 times fast. Vita Vita Vegemin, yeah.
That's
okay,
that.
we are down to the 15-minute mark.
Okay.
And we do have a momentary lull. So do we want to see about doing closing comments and go off air with this, or do we want to try and continue a little bit longer?
I don't know. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about? Why can't I get this damn camera on there correctly?
Ooh, pretty shiny thing.
The pretty shiny thing is we've been accused of having that as being the general theme of Insomnia Shuffle. Because more often than not, I'll have like a topic or two, and I'll just try to get the ball rolling, and then just leave it from there, and just see where it lands, so to speak. But if we get stuck on this topic for too long, I'll usually shuffle it up to something else. And we've had Cliff to help with that today, and he did a great job with that, actually, because I was about to say something, and he's like, oh, can we talk about this? I'm like, yeah, please, please. But yeah, I mean, I really rely heavily on the people that I invite to really move the conversation forward and to see where things go. And I enjoy that we're able to have these shuffles and that we have very different people that are more than happy to come in and, in some cases, Jade, be more than willing to take center stage for a good part so I can sit back, relax, and listen myself. But I feel it does the service not only for the, so to speak, YouTube community that many of us associate with, but for others as well, because everyone needs a break from the general same old crap that we do. And for that, I'd like to thank everyone that does participate, both those here today and otherwise. Granted, today I mixed it up and didn't actually invite my regulars, and I've not gotten any complaints yet, so I guess that's an okay thing. Now, I'm going to actually see about going to closing comments here, and I'm going to shut it out a little bit early tonight, depending on how long the comments are. But we do have Jade here, so I want to make sure I have a little extra time. And on that note, let's start with, Timothy.
Oops.
Okay. Well, I did want to talk a little bit about the current stuff going on in politics with North Korea. Any of you guys interested in talking about that?
I see a lot of heads shaking.
No.
Fuck North Korea.
There's a lot of U.S. saber rattling going on right now.
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of old.
One of the reasons I don't know if they actually did it is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it might have been somebody within Sony itself that did it.
Okay, I have a perfect reason why that's absolutely bogus.
Okay.
There have been at least 4 films that have been leaked thanks to this. Do you think that Sony is going to screw themselves out of millions, billions of dollars worth of movie and video revenue. Just to
not
satisfy
willingly,
the film that
no.
probably wasn't doing that,
Yeah.
not going to do that brilliant in the first place.
Yeah, if there was involvement from somebody inside Sony, it certainly wasn't anyone toward the anywhere worth a damn in the power structure.
Yeah, they were just trying to cause trouble.
Like I'm thinking more of an employee that's disgruntled, or a former employee that's disgruntled, something along that lines. Not actually Sony.
I don't know. But seeing as we're thinking
I
about
suppose
closing
we
up,
have to trust that the NSA, I think it was, who were the ones that that picked up on the data that had been scrambled or stuffed up within Sony, and that matched data that had happened in South Korea, I think it was. Hacking from there. So they effectively followed the breadcrumbs, as it were.
Yeah.
I suppose it's the equivalent of a disease, and you can tell from the signature where it's come from.
Wherever it hopped from one point to another.
Mm.
Yeah, eventually we'll get more information on it. But in any case, I do have like 10 minutes left to close out because I really do need to close out. I've been going into overtime way too much lately. And the other day I actually let her run for 5 hours, and it's supposed to only be 2. So, Polly, do you have yourself mic'd? That'd be a no. Heavy Holler, closing comments.
I really enjoyed it tonight. I mean, we haven't even really touched on the great debate, except for the anti-vaxxers, but it's been enjoyable.
I'm sitting here in my, it's cold, so I'm sitting here in my...
Interrupting a closing comment, Jade.
Closing comment.
No, you're interrupting one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Heavy Holler?
Oh, that was pretty much it. I just
okay.
was commenting on how it was good, because we stayed away from a lot of taboo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Halzoy, who's been remarkably silent.
Well, I sort of only just got here. I was watching UFC, and it's totally fucking bullshit the end result, but whatever.
Closing comment does not have to be relevant to anything.
Yes. He said.
Okay. Cliff.
Well, I've got a couple of things. It's very quick stuff though. I am very disappointed that the Philadelphia Eagles have not got through this year. So how disappointing! I am quite amazed that Jade actually does have a face and isn't a snail. And Heavy Holler has an amazing beard, and I've never seen him before. I didn't, So yeah, it's interesting to see people. But I think that the best they can do is finish exactly how I did with Forbidden Fruits Hangout last night, which is to use to give a G-Man's Hangout closer, but with a twist. Read your Bible and do what it says. So tomorrow I'm going to go and have a genocide rampage.
Okay, read the wrong part.
I think you're taking it out of context, man.
That reminds me of something, but I'll have to say it for my own. Jay, Derry.
Yeah, and I would like to tell everyone to go read the Song of Solomon.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, baby. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Ooh, baby,
That's all I have
you
to
know what
say.
I like. There we go. Yeah. I'm actually going to get to my close briefly. I'm trying to get a small panel together because I'm going to be doing a regular daytime discussion that's going to be talking about the weight of words. I'm planning on inviting Nate and Jade and a couple others. I'm not sure exactly when this is going to be scheduled, but it is upcoming. And the problem, whether it be biblical text or what have you, that I find, and yes, I'm getting on theology for a moment, is where you put the emphasis while reading it. For example, people will sit there and go on and on about, well, Christmas trees. It's keeping the Christ in Christmas, and make sure that you have that tree up in Central Square and what have you. Yet there's a passage in the Bible that says, don't put trees in the house.
Pagan.
So we got to kind of, so this is a set passage that doesn't have much weight to it. They don't weight that passage. But there are other passages that, depending on the denomination, are weighted quite heavily. And I'm hoping to get a panel together to talk about that. If anybody's interested in weighing in on that panel, just send me a message on the side, and I'll have a quick side chat with you. And I want to try and keep it as focused as possible with a very small panel. And feel free to hit me up on that if you're interested. In any case,
I'll have to wait and see if I've got time.
Anyway, signing out for the Insomnia Shuffle. Thanks for watching, and thanks for participating, and everybody have a great day, or great night, or great whatever the heck time it is now.